Deathly fencing. Vladimir Smirnov was 31 years old, a Soviet Olympic fencer competing on September 29, 1988, at the Summer Olympic Games in Seoul, South Korea. He entered the men's team foil event as the reigning world champion and one of the most experienced competitors in the field. The bout took place indoors on a regulation Olympic fencing piste, with judges, teammates, and spectators in attendance. Foil fencing involves repeated blade contact at close range, with lunges occurring within a distance of less than 2 meters. At the time, competition standards permitted steel blades designed to flex under force, along with wire mesh masks approved for Olympic use. As the match progressed, Smirnov maintained an aggressive attacking pace, repeatedly closing distance rather than slowing exchanges. This approach was common at elite level and remained fully within competition rules. The tempo increased. Blades met again and again. Strikes landed in rapid sequence as both fencers pressed forward. During one close exchange, force concentrated near the tip of a blade. The metal failed. A broken section passed through the opening of Smirnov's mask. Match officials reacted immediately. Medical teams moved toward the piste. The bout ended at once. The blade fragment entered his eye and penetrated his brain. Smirnov never regained consciousness and died 9 days later from irreversible brain injury. A formal inquiry identified equipment failure as the cause. International fencing bodies introduced stronger blade alloys, reinforced masks, and stricter puncture resistance standards. Fatal downhill. Ross Milne was 25 years old, an Australian Olympic skier training on January 25, 1967, in Innsbruck, Austria, ahead of the Winter Olympic Games. He was a national downhill champion and an experienced international competitor. That day, he was completing an official training run on a downhill course designated for Olympic use. Other skiers were on the slope, with course officials positioned along the run. Downhill skiing involved sustained speeds approaching 60 miles per hour on steep sections of the course. Safety practices at the time allowed fixed obstacles, including trees, to remain near the racing line if they were outside marked boundaries. Milne carried full speed through a section where the terrain steepened and visibility narrowed. He did not significantly reduce pace before entering the lower portion of the course, a common approach during downhill training. As he approached a bend at nearly 60 miles per hour, Milne lost control and was forced off his racing line. With little room to recover at that speed, he exited the course and entered an unprotected area beside the slope. He struck a tree at high speed and suffered fatal injuries. He died at the scene. The incident led to international review of downhill safety standards. Organizers expanded safety corridors, cleared obstacles farther from race lines, and later introduced protective padding and revised course designs. The last luge training. Nodar Kumaritashvili was 21 years old, a Georgian Olympic luger, training on February 12, 2010, at the Whistler Sliding Center in British Columbia, Canada. It was his first Olympic Games, and he was entered in men's singles luge. The track had been newly built for the Games and was being used for official training runs prior to the opening ceremony. The track permitted speeds exceeding 140 kilometers per hour, particularly in its lower sections. The men's start position was the highest point on the course and was approved for competition use. Kumaritashvili began his run from the men's start position. This followed standard procedures and complied with all instructions in place at the time. As the sled accelerated through the upper sections, velocity continued to increase. Near the bottom of the track, approaching a high-speed curve, the sled drifted toward the outside wall. The remaining distance narrowed rapidly. The sled climbed the curved sidewall. The sled left the ice. Kumaritashvili was ejected and struck an unpadded steel support beam beside the track. He was transported from the course to a nearby hospital, where he died shortly afterward from severe traumatic injuries. Investigators identified excessive track speed and insufficient protective barriers as contributing factors. Ski groomer and the athlete. Nicolas Bochatai was 28 years old, a Swiss speed skier, competing on February 22, 1992, during the Winter Olympic Games in Albertville, France. He was taking part in a speed skiing demonstration event intended to showcase extreme downhill performance. The course was set on a steep alpine slope built for maximum velocity, with spectators and officials positioned in the lower areas. Speed skiing involved straight-line descents with athletes reaching speeds above 160 kilometers per hour. Although the course was separated from public areas, visibility varied near the runout zone beyond the finish. After completing his timed run, Bochatai continued downhill into the deceleration area. This phase was standard, and he remained in a controlled skiing position as speed gradually decreased. As he exited the competition zone, visibility narrowed. A service road crossed the runout area below. At the same moment, a snow grooming machine was operating on that road. Course personnel were positioned nearby. Safety operations were active. The machine remained in motion. Bochatai collided with the grooming machine at high speed and suffered fatal injuries. He died at the scene. Following the incident, organizers re-evaluated course layouts and operational procedures. Speed skiing demonstration events were removed from future Olympic programs. Ski groomer and the staff. Jörg Oberhammer was 52 years old, an Austrian team doctor, present on February 22, 1988, during the Winter Olympic Games in Calgary, Canada. He was assigned to support the Austrian alpine skiing team and had worked at numerous international winter sporting events. That day, he was walking near an alpine skiing venue in an area commonly used by medical and support personnel during course preparation. Snow grooming machines were operating to maintain the racing surface. These vehicles weighed several tons and reshaped snow using rear-mounted equipment. When reversing, visibility directly behind the machine was restricted under safety guidelines used at the time. As Oberhammer moved through the area, he passed behind one of the grooming machines rather than waiting for it to clear. This was a routine movement in that zone and did not breach posted restrictions. The machine began reversing. Engine noise increased. The distance between Oberhammer and the rear equipment closed within seconds. The operator had no direct view behind the vehicle. The machine did not stop. Oberhammer was pulled beneath the rear grooming equipment and sustained fatal crush injuries. He was pronounced dead at the scene. A subsequent investigation cited limited rear visibility and insufficient separation between personnel and heavy machinery. Cycling time trial. Knud Enemark Jensen was 23 years old, a Danish Olympic cyclist competing on August 26, 1960, at the Summer Olympic Games in Rome, Italy. He was part of Denmark's four-man team time trial squad and had extensive experience in endurance road racing. The course ran along public roads outside the city during the afternoon, with riders exposed to open terrain and limited shade. Temperatures exceeded 40 degrees Celsius. The event required sustained effort over more than 60 miles, and medical supervision during competition was minimal by modern standards. At the time, some endurance athletes used Ronicol, a legal circulation stimulant derived from nicotinic acid, intended to increase blood flow. Before the race, Jensen had taken Ronicol. As the race continued, he took repeated turns at the front of the formation, carrying the heaviest workload. Hours into the event, his pedaling rhythm faltered. His posture became unstable. Teammates maintained pace. With several miles remaining, Jensen lost balance. His movements slowed. He collapsed while riding and fell onto the asphalt as officials and teammates moved toward him. He was transported to a hospital in Rome, where he died several hours later from heat stroke, with Ronicol contributing to cardiovascular collapse under extreme conditions. Formal anti-doping rules were introduced, and systematic drug testing became a permanent part of future Olympic Games.